Now put the front end on. Oh god dang there, boy, that thing moved all by itself. It feels freaking amazing, dude. I was so nervous just to back it out of the driveway. I mean, there's so much stuff to finalize, but it moved just fine. Backed up, pulled forward. We're accomplishing things around here, bro. Finally got the thing off the jack stand. So it is quite a few hours later from the beginning of this video out here spraying this core support. I wanted to give it the day, like, to just kind of sit out here in the sun and dry. So I think it's had plenty enough time. We can go ahead and throw this thing on. I went ahead and masked this thing off because if you guys, any of you guys have ever spray painted this section right here, you know it doesn't last long because the latch comes down and just scrapes all the paint. Anyhow, I'm gonna go ahead and get this thing off of these little stands I put on there. We need to get this out front and start figuring out what goes on the Blazer first. It was just so long ago I tore this thing apart. Honestly, I gotta figure out how to put it back together at this point. So as you guys know, I want to put air conditioning in this. I don't know why, but I completely forgot that I already had a condenser. So the front core support is mounted up. This is temporary. I just wanted to see the clearance. So we're gonna actually grab our Alloyworks radiator over there and just kind of fit it in here and just see how much room we're gonna have. I'm hoping that it fits, you know what I'm saying? It looks like we're gonna have plenty enough room to fit it in there, but I wanna make sure. And then we'll go ahead and remove this. Set it up here on the bench so that it's gonna be a lot easier to actually attach the radiator, because I think we need to figure out attachment points. Oh yeah, she gonna be tight, boy. Hold up. So I think it's pretty clear that we do not have clearance for the radiator, man. How come every single time I get a cool aluminum radiator with a fancy little shroud and fans, I can't fit it, dude? This happens to me. Well, actually, this is only the second time. First time I got a cool little setup like this that was for khaki, and of course it did not fit in there. And I ended up having to ditch the fan shroud, in which I don't want to ditch the fan shroud. Like, I want that in there. It's what's going to provide the most ability to cool, you know what I'm saying? And I feel like we're gonna need that, man. And one problem that I'm gonna have is, like most first gen S10 guys who put either small block Chevy or big block for that matter, or LS swaps, if they put V8s in here, they gotta scoot their damn radiators forward, right? But I would imagine they don't have air conditioning, most of them, because I'm wanting to keep AC. So we have a condenser that needs to live in here as well. So this is definitely going to take a little bit of ingenuity, bro, and some fabrication. And by fabrication, I mean more than likely just cutting. So I don't know. But I'm gonna pop all this back off. We're gonna get it up on the workbench and see what it is we can figure out to be able to keep radiator, fan shroud and fans, and condenser all within this tight little spot. Okay, in my defense, I wasn't aware that I was gonna have this issue, okay? That is the only reason why I painted this thing before we even got started. So, I was under the impression that it was just gonna bolt right up and I was gonna have plenty of clearance. I was clearly wrong. Hey, can I get some quiet, can I get some silence on set? Quiet on set there, buddy. What's up, you little fluffy bugger? Little fluffy bugger. Oh, Toby's jealous. Toby gets jealous when Plumpers gets attention. So I need to try to get this thing probably a good inch to 2 inches back. We are, I want to say, about an inch away from the condenser. I don't even know if I get this thing to sit flush against the condenser where it's at, if that's gonna be enough room. But if I get this to go back any further than what it is, we're gonna run into problems with the fill is gonna be buried inside of there. So I've seen a lot of different things. Like some people run just the tubed front core support, you know? Some people just hack the shit out of their factory one. I've seen people completely cut this center section all the way out. I've seen people just notch it and then they have a big notch right here around the radiator cap. Like, I've seen all kinds of different things. There's many ways of doing it. I feel like most people aren't trying to keep a condenser because, I mean, let's face it, most people that throw the V8s in their Blazers or S10s, they're just kind of building like a race truck type thing. And not a lot of people keep air conditioning. I feel like there's gonna be a lot of comments on that. What I'm saying is the majority of people, you know what I'm saying? I know there's a lot of people who do keep air conditioning. So while I am dealing with my radiator fiasco, Braven's also dealing with one of his own, right? So this is the factory radiator that was in his truck. This was like for the 4-cylinder basically. Yeah. So they make one, as we learned through this process, they actually have a Colorado that comes with a 5.3 in it.
Yeah, so it's like a 2009 to 2012 Chevy Colorado. They come with a 5.3, but the radiator, the one that I have is a single core. The one that they have is, I'm pretty sure it's a, might be a 3-core.
Two or three core. Yeah, either way, it holds a little bit more, so it's slightly larger. and it's not just a single core. It's either a dual or a 3, not exactly sure. So he's calling around to like AutoZones and stuff to try to find somebody that has it, or O'Reilly's that actually has the V8 one available, in which it'll then just bolt right into his truck. So he's waiting on hold right now with one of them.
I'm on hold with one of them at the moment. Supposedly they have it.
He's gonna go and buy a new one to go in there that will just bolt right in and be sufficient enough for the V8, where it's just every step of the way, bro, with the Colorado. It's like they have something already for it, or it just bolts up. Yeah, just bolts everything that I have to do with this damn Blazer, I have to cut and modify and weld. But speaking of, that's what we need to start doing. At least now I don't have to repaint the entire thing. I just have to touch it up after I'm done. Well, unfortunately, there ain't too many options here. So I've done a lot of staring at this and a lot of measuring. I butt these right up next to one another, and it still comes out to about 3 3/4 of an inch from here to here. If you measure that inside of here, it's still like that barely brings the radiator in like a 1/2 inch or so. I don't know. I think my only option is going to be to cut the absolute hell out of this, and I really don't want to. But, I mean, what else am I gonna do? You know what I'm saying? I'm gonna leave these supports in here. So to start off, I'm just gonna cut straight up this direction and straight across, basically. Straight up here and straight across. We're gonna get rid of the entire center section right here. And then see if we can't get the condenser and radiator just smushed in there as tight as possible. I obviously need to keep this. So I gotta go in the backyard and see if I can find some kind of steel that I can add back in. So when I cut here, take this whole centerpiece out, I'm hoping I have some kind of square rod back there that I can weld from here to here and basically add this connection point back in, as well as a place to bolt the condenser at the top. So the condenser was bolted right here. And what's nice is that is in line with where these bolt up. So I'm thinking if I put a piece of square rod or whatever I have out back across there, that would give me a place to bolt up not only the support for my hood hinge or for my hood latch, but also a place to bolt the condenser back up. Just, it's up in the air whether that is going to give us enough clearance to get the radiator in there with the shroud. So that's my goal. I know I've mentioned that, but my goal is to keep the shroud and the fans. I want this thing to have as much ability to stay cool as it possibly can. So having a shroud on there is gonna be a lot better than just attaching fans directly to the radiator. You know what I mean? Son of a bitch. Come on, do it with me. Hell yeah there, buddy. Look at that. Bolt right in. V8 radiator. So did it happen? Did it happen to say on the computer if it's dual core or 3-core?
No, I didn't ask any extra questions. I was just
I
can check online. Yeah, I can check online, but
yeah. Dude, that's a dope. I mean, it's a radiator.
Thicker. It's double the thickness for sure.
Is it?
Yeah.
I want to say double.
No,
your other radiator wasn't
before,
half.
No,
that.
it had a plastic cover
over
it. But I looked in between. It was one of those little Look like
like really thin.
Yeah, look at a condenser.
Yeah.
So.
Well, that should freaking work, bro.
Hopefully, yeah.
Hell yeah. And the ports are on the same side, right?
Yeah, ports are all the same.
All right, well, throw it in.
Yes, sir.
Get it all put together. Did you get more zip ties for your fans?
No, I didn't have any.
Oh.
Yeah. So I gotta put the fans on first, but I want to test fit it real quick. Make sure
Sick.
everything's in order.
All right, so this is what I've got so far. I cut this entire section out all the way across, just like I said I was going to. Now, I do need to add some support back in. Basically, my original idea was to like weld a piece to go from here to here so that it would pick up this bolting point right here. But what I think I'm gonna do is just go ahead and mount it back on there for temporary. And then see what it is I'm capable of doing as far as getting the condenser and radiator in there. Like mock it up for the most part. What I'm thinking now, if I can get everything to fit in there now with as much as I cut out, maybe I'll just come back and make a piece of aluminum that'll go from here to here and just match these bends right here. And then I'll have kind of like a piece to go over the top to cover like whatever portion of the radiator is actually sticking out. And then on the face of that, I could put some rib nuts in and screw these number 10s back into that, and then probably do rib nuts over here and then bolt that piece down right here. I don't know, I think it would look pretty dope for one, and for two, I have no steel here that is long enough to go from here to here. The longest piece that I found out there is this from an old baby gate, in which if this was long enough I would use it, even though it's round, but it's not long enough. I need something that's at least 32 inches, and I have nothing out there. So anyhow, I'm gonna go ahead and throw the soft disc back on my grinder. I need to go through and clean all these cuts up and kind of round some stuff, make it look a little nicer and a little less deadly. Then we'll test fit it. What this is? New headlight hardware. Because I should be installing my headlights right now. Alright, it's all gonna fit in there, but we have to figure out how to actually mount it in there. The condenser has these little rubber pieces that it sits on. They go in this direction, but I can't have this gap right here. I need more of like that to put it in backwards. That would be perfect, but then I can't have this section sticking out the back because that's going to be in the way of the radiator. So what I'm going to do is actually just cut right here. I'm going to cut these down. I'm going to have to figure out a way to make them stay there. But yeah, you got to do what you got to do. So we have successfully moved the bottom of the condenser as far forward as we possibly can. And what's dope is the condenser actually kind of sits into those rubber pieces. So I think as long as we get the top of this thing mounted well, we won't have to worry about actually mounting this rubber piece on the bottom. It's just gonna sit in there, and then of course the radiator ain't gonna let nothing move. But as far as the top, it's pretty much the same concept, just this has like a metal bracket around this rubber piece. So you see this large gap on the back right here. That originally went this direction, which gapped the condenser back. And this bolting point right here, it has this bolting point that's on the back side of it, that actually bolted to a section that we have now cut out. So it sat in there like this. I'm gonna need to flip this around backwards like that. And once again, I need to cut that spacing off. This one's gonna be a little bit harder because it's actually it has this metal bracket going around it. But I'm gonna cut that, and then we need somewhere to actually bolt this. So that piece of aluminum that I'm talking about making for up here, I need to make sure it comes down far enough so we can utilize that as a bolting point for the condenser, and really to move forward I kind of need to get that done because I have no idea where to put the radiator right now without knowing where the condenser is going to be. So once we get the condenser mounted, then I'll be able to see if we have enough room for the radiator for one. All right, so to make this aluminum piece that we're going to fabricate for the top here, I need to know obviously how wide it's going to be. Right now we're sitting at about 32 inches, but when I did kind of mock the radiator up inside of here, I noticed something. So I mean, the radiator is more than likely going to be somewhere in this vicinity, you know what I'm saying? So I think that's fair to say. The radiator cap is still kind of crowded with this section of the core support that we did not cut out. So I think I need to go ahead and notch this area right here a little bit more, probably put an angle to it. So I'm gonna do that first before we measure for our dimensions. All right, now this thing needs to be right at about 33 inches. Let's go to 34. So 34 inches. So I found this really thin piece of aluminum angle in my backyard. I decided to go ahead and use this because it's going to be a little bit stronger, and honestly it was a lot easier, bro. It was the perfect length. I couldn't find any steel back there to actually weld in, but I found a piece of aluminum and I have it screwed in for now. If everything works out, then I'm going to remove the screws. I'll need to drill these holes a little bit larger, and then I'm going to put some of those rib nuts in there and actually use number 10 bolts right here to bolt this in. But I've already got the hood latch support bolted up. What was really cool about this is it's kind of two pieces. So the section that has the threads went on the back side, and then the section that has the holes for the bolts to go through was on the front side. So this is kind of sandwiched between it, which worked out really well. I have the condenser sitting in here. It is currently sitting on its little rubber feet, and then you pull it forward and it sits nice and flush against that piece of aluminum. And looking at it so far, we have definitely gained a lot of space in there, but I need to get the top of this mounted before I could actually test fit the radiator, so I know exactly where that's going to be. Coming over to the upper mounts that I was talking about earlier, this is the one that I have done absolutely nothing to, and this is the one that I have now cut up. So I had to cut the back off of it, and I also had to cut the front off of it. The problem with that is if you look at this one, do you see this metal piece is kind of like a cup? Like it holds that rubber in there so the rubber can't slide out. So this piece, since I had to cut the front off of it as well and the back, now it will allow that piece of rubber to just kind of slide around. But I already have an idea of how to fix that. So you come over here to the condenser, you see how there's a hole right there in the top? That is where this piece is going to sit over it, and you can still see that hole right there. It's as simple as just passing a zip tie around it, bro. I'm just gonna put a zip, well, I'll actually use baling wire so the zip tie doesn't break. But for temporary, I'm gonna go ahead and use a zip tie until we know for sure that all this is gonna work. So now whenever we push this in, you see how that mounting hole just goes flush against that piece of aluminum that we put in there. I just have to mark that, drill a hole, and then we could pass a bolt through, and then the freaking condenser will be mounted solid, bro. And what's dope is we used the stock mount, so it's still got the rubber, like the isolators, so that you know, vibration and everything isn't going to damage it. I'm really stoked about how that came out. I need to get this one caught up with that one, and then we'll get it bolted up, and then we can finally test and see if we made enough room for this big old mamma jamma. Freaking perfect. All right, so I'm not gonna say plenty of room, but this thing definitely fits now. It is clearing and steering around here, you know what I'm saying? All right, so I need to make a mount down here to hold the bottom of the radiator. So I think I'm gonna actually bolt it right here on the core support and then share this mounting point right here with the fan shroud. So it needs to be about 18 inches. I have a piece of aluminum here. I need to cut this down to 18 inches. All right, and need to mark the holes. So this is what I've got so far. This right here isn't actually like a straight 90. It's more, honestly, I don't know what degree it is, but that's the reason why that's not bent at a straight 90. So I'll need to drill these holes, obviously, to bolt this up right there. And then we'll have that piece that comes forward. And I need to figure out exactly the relation of where those bolts are gonna line up. I don't want the radiator all the way to the bottom. Whenever you put it all the way to the bottom, the top is kind of sunk in, you know what I mean? In which I am gonna trim this piece a little bit right here. I'm gonna like make a little rounded portion to go around the cap, but I don't want the cap to be sunk down in like that. I need to get it up to about right there. I feel like that brings the cap up quite a bit and it's not as crowded. It's actually got to go over a little bit to the right a little bit. But yeah, with it right there and then rounding this out a little bit, I think I'm going to have plenty enough room to get the cap on and off. Anyhow, with that being said, I need to figure out exactly where these holes are going to be on the plate, but I think my plate is a little too tall right now, so I need to trim a portion of that off. Here we go, Mr. Jigsaw. So this is what I ended up with. I got all the holes drilled for mounting, and I went ahead and I cut some notches and took some material out just to add a little bit of style to this thing. Didn't come out too bad, man. So in theory, we should be able to just bolt this thing on right here. Hold on, does it go that way or does it goes this way? So we should be able to just bolt this thing on right here and then just set it on the core support, and those holes should line up, and then just put a couple bolts in there and the bottom mounting will be finished. All right, so the bracket currently has the radiator sitting a little bit too close to the condenser. On this side, it's good. On this side, it's not. And that's the reason why we have this gap right here. And that's because where these lines come out, it's got this bracket that comes over, and it's got those two bolts right there. So this side doesn't sit as close. So the radiator does need to scoot forward ever so slightly, but that's okay. I kind of had a feeling that this was gonna happen, and I already know a fix. Just simply moving the bracket to the back side. That should give us plenty, bro, and actually space the radiator out. The thickness of this piece of angle right here and the thickness of that bracket off of the fan shroud. Freaking perfect. And if it wasn't, I was just gonna grind the head of those bolts down a little bit. Screw it. And I've actually got those nylon locking nuts that I'm putting on these bolts, so I don't have to worry about them vibrating off. One thing you don't want is all this shit vibrating loose while you're on the road, right? I'm not gonna lie, dude, that actually came out pretty damn clean, bro. I am very satisfied with that, and you know damn well that ain't going anywhere. So now we just gotta figure out the top. The top is probably gonna be a little bit more difficult. I don't know. I'm kind of thinking about making a plate that goes from here to here and then just put a little bend up in it to where it attaches to this point. Actually, I could just share those same bolts once again like we did with the bottom. This side is still sitting up though, man. And looking down inside of there, my radiator is actually sitting on those 210s in there I was talking about. Who's your boss, bitch? All right, so for this top portion, we're gonna need a piece that is about, let's just call it 4 inches. It doesn't need to come all the way to the edge, but then the broke up part is going to be just under an inch. So altogether about 5 inches, and we'll make it 23 inches wide. So 23 inches by 5 inches. This piece is nice and square, so I'm gonna go ahead and use these factory edges to save me some cutting. All right, so I got this thing all mapped out. So look, I decided to get a little bit creative with this piece. Is it gonna end up looking goofy as shit? I have no idea, bro. There's only one way really to know, and that is to just send it. Get this thing cut out, get it bent up. All these circles right here represent the mounting holes. So those 2 are the ones that are actually on the radiator. These 3 are the ones that we are gonna have to drill in the top of this piece here. And it'll just be going across in kind of a zigzag form. You know what I'm saying? I don't know. I think it'll look kind of cool. And if it doesn't, then I'll just scrap it and I'll have to just make a nice square piece right here. I got it all cut, cleaned up. I do want to round these sides a little bit more. So instead of leaving that squared up like that, I'm gonna do a little bit more of a rounded shape to it. Kind of like how I did right here. So I think that just looks a little bit better. So moving on, I marked where these holes are in relation to this piece. So I need to take this all off and then I'm gonna drill those, and then I'm going to put some of these rib nuts in there. I only have 3. I believe these are M6. These are the ones that are for like number 10 bolts. I only have freaking 3 left. So that is going to be perfect for right here. I wasn't gonna use any right here anyhow because that's through bolted, but I did want to put 10s right here as well. So I'm gonna need to order some more, either that or jump up in size to M8, in which I don't even have any hardware this size. I mean, I probably do, but I'd have to search for it. Anyhow, I'm gonna go ahead and get this drilled out for now and get these rib nuts in. Since I only have the 3, I can't freaking mess them up. All right, final test fit time before we have to tear it all apart for paint. Don't give rib nuts too many ugga-uggas. Damn, boy. Dude, that radiator is one with that core support. Came out really nice. I'm really digging it. It's not done. Like I said, I need to trim a few places and kind of clean it up. I do need to cut this section out for the radiator cap, but before I take this off to do that, I'm gonna have to tear this all apart and paint it anyhow. I'm not gonna leave it just bare aluminum. So I wanted to go ahead and give it one final assembly so that we can go ahead and throw it back on the Blazer. I wanna make sure that we still have clearance and it's not gonna be touching the engine. Hell friggin' yeah. There it is. We are clearing. I mean, don't get me wrong, it's really close down inside of there, but it's not touching, and that's what's important. Now, obviously, the only thing that's really getting close is the wires, so whenever I do wire this up, I need to make sure to keep them strapped down nice and tight where they can't come out and touch any of the moving parts, but we're looking a lot better than what we were whenever we started the video, man. We can actually bolt this damn thing up in there. I was afraid I was going to lose the fan shroud, and I was gonna have to do like how Braven is set up right now with just bands zip tied on there. But dude, it came out freaking amazing. Man, we have a air conditioning condenser in there, a 3-core radiator, 2 fans with a shroud, all in there, bro. For the most part, it is a stock core support, man. I know we had to cut a whole lot out, but it's not like a full-blown freaking tubed core support. So, you know what I'm saying? We just had to make everything fit and just kind of cram it in there. But could you imagine if we're trying to put a freaking intercooler on here? I'm kidding. I'm pretty sure an intercooler actually fell in the front. All right, so I got this thing all taken apart. I went ahead and I touched up all the areas where I had to cut, and it was bare metal. And I went ahead and I sprayed these 2 pieces black. Now we just gotta wait for everything to dry so I can put it back together and put it back on the truck. I decided not to paint this lower portion because, I mean, you're not gonna, it's underneath the truck, dude. One less thing I have to wait for to dry, you know what I'm saying? While we are waiting for our paint to dry, I ran down to the Home Depot. So there is a little bit of a gap between the radiator and the condenser, and I want to seal that gap up. And there's also a little bit of a gap between this fan shroud and the radiator. Whenever it's mounted on there, you can see there's a little bit of a gap. You see with it sitting on there, there is a gap going around, and I want to close that up so that any airflow absolutely has to go through the radiator and through the condenser. So I went and got some of this window sealer from Home Depot. This is a foam, and this one I think was rubber. Oh, sponge. Just some basic stuff. This one's a little bit thinner. I'm gonna use this one to stick on this edge all the way around our fan shroud. And then that will squish against the radiator, make it a nice tight seal. And then this one is a little bit thicker to take up the gap that is between the radiator and the condenser. Just gonna use a little bit of alcohol on a rag and clean this edge really good. Make sure it's nice and clean, because this stuff has like a adhesive tape on it. Just like that, all the way around. Now this is this was a little bit more expensive than just the average crap. You know, it's kind of like a rubbery foam. So I'm hoping that this is gonna last a little bit longer and be able to hold up to all my super clean and pressure washing adventures that this thing will more than likely be going through. Oh yeah, dude, that's gonna have the perfect amount of squish. I also got all new hardware to replace all the hardware that was already on here, because I'm replacing it with the nuts that have those nylon inserts, so I don't have to worry about any of this stuff vibrating loose. I'm gonna be using this thicker stuff between the radiator and the condenser because it was kind of a large gap, but I got it thick enough to where this is thicker than the gap was, so it will actually squish. Now I'm only gonna be able to put this stuff on the sides of the condenser because I don't want to run it across the actual fins. So it won't be 100% sealed off, but it's going to help a little bit sealing off the sides of it. So I also got a thing of washers while I was at Home Depot, so I'm able to put a washer on both sides of every single one of these bolting points. And this is also getting the nylon nuts. So this top piece is the only thing that I am now waiting on to dry. When I painted it the first time, it had an imperfection in it going across here. It had like a texture in it. And I wasn't happy with it because this is kind of like the main piece that you see. I'm like, freaking really? So I ended up having to wet sand it, and I did another coat on it, and it looks good now. But I want to give it some time to dry so I don't put my freaking fingerprints in it. But peep game at that, dude. You see the foam right there? Just smushed in between the radiator and the condenser. And then of course the foam right here between the fan shroud and the radiator. That is getting squished. So I'm waiting for that one last piece has to dry, and that will bolt up here, and then it'll attach there, and we'll be ready to throw this freaking thing back on for the final time. So Braven got his new radiator in. It's funny, we're both working on radiators. Yeah. We're both working on putting LS's in our trucks. No.
That's what you're trying to say, man. We're just them. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, we are that guy.
We are that guy.
What the hell?
We are him.
Anyhow, he got this in, and he took it for a rip, and it seems to be doing good. It's not overheating, but it was leaving a wet spot in the driveway. So went ahead and put the pressure, the coolant system pressure checker 9000 on here. And dude, this system runs at about 15 psi. He pumped this up to 17, and these heater core hoses right here just start spewing coolant out, man.
They weren't tight enough.
Yeah, it's just something as simple as that, bro. Those hose clamps weren't tight enough, and like, I struggled. I forget what car it was. I think it was a Suburban. I don't remember. But I couldn't find, like, because I kept losing coolant. And I'm like, what the hell? Because it would only leak like that whenever the pressure got up. So it would only leak whenever it was warm. Yeah. And then you get home and you're like, oh, I'm going to let it cool down before I touch that sumbitch. And then, of course, it's not going to leak because it's cooled down. So, yeah, that's what's really nice about having one of these little pressure checkers. So
we're actually able to check the...
Yeah, you can actually pressurize the system and see where your leaks are coming from. But you got them tightened up. Now I'd recommend pressurize it again, see if we find any more. Is that about 17 again?
Before, whenever I just touched it, these were spewing.
Yeah.
They weren't spewing whenever I didn't touch them. I went to go move them thinking that it might have been the water. I wanted to kind of see if it was loose or if it maybe was a gasket. And then I touched the hose and moved it out of my way, and it just ended with spewing. So, I don't know.
Yeah, check all your other hoses. Make sure you don't see anything leaking. You feel the pressure in that son of a bitch?
Yeah, there's more pressure than it does whenever it's actually on.
Yeah.
Off the hoses.
Hell yeah. Yeah, I'd let it cool down a little bit more and then top it back off.
Yeah.
Make sure there's not an air pocket in there now. But there you go, bro. Get yourself a pressure checker. I bet they have these at Harbor Freight. This one right here is a Matco, you know? You know, Matco. I'm kidding. That's one of those tools that my brother hooked me up with whenever he made the transition from mechanic to truck driver. Well, we got it all mounted up in there, man. The paint isn't completely dry, but I was careful with it. And I'm not gonna lie, dude, I kinda liked it a little bit more whenever it was just all aluminum. I think it had a cooler look to it. But I am looking forward to this paint drying and becoming a little bit more satin like this is. I don't know if the camera is picking it up, but this is a lot shinier right here. And I don't really care for the glossiness of it. It should dull down just like the rest of the core support, because I mean, I painted that with the exact same can of spray paint. You know what I mean? Anyhow, guys, I really wanted to get the entire front end put together in this video, but of course, like everything with this freaking Blazer so far, nothing is just a direct bolt-on type of affair. Everything requires some kind of cutting or fabrication, man. So I'm kind of out of time for today. I can't even put the radiator hoses on. I was gonna do that at least, but at the moment, if you hold it up here, like I need to trim portions of this hose away to make this fit, if it's even going to fit, because if you see, my output, my water pump is right here, and the radiator's right there, and this guy is way the hell over here. So we're gonna figure that out later. I need to get the fenders and the wheel liners on to determine the angle of this. So I still have some play here. For all I know, like if I put the hoses on right here, and then it's gonna actually need to pull in about an inch or so. Like, I'm not sure. I doubt it's gonna be that much, because if it is, then we're gonna have a problem with the fan still hitting the damn water pump. But hopefully not. I honestly think this is probably where it's gonna sit. I just don't want to risk it, you know what I'm saying? So next time, whenever we're working on the Blazer, wheel liners, fenders, finish up this water pump, or finish up the radiator. We gotta do the upper and lower radiator hose. Actually get to see what the freaking face of this Blazer looks like once again. It's been forever since we've seen this thing all put together. Oh crap, I still have like the cowl that's gotta go on. There's a lot with the front end. It's gonna be crazy to put a hood on it. I hope you guys are as excited as I am to see this thing getting closer and closer to being finished. And I hope you guys are enjoying the process of this just as much as I am enjoying working on it, dude. This thing has been a blast. Oh, dude, I still need to make some pieces for right here. Son of a bitch. I completely forgot about that. Yeah, so I am gonna close this in, and I am gonna close this in. So, we'll do that next time, man. I am beat right now. What's up, guys? I know, it's time to go inside, huh? It's time to go inside. Say, let's go inside. I'm out of time for today, but I hope you guys enjoyed this video. And don't forget, Alloyworks is the one who provided this radiator for the Blazer, and they are giving you guys a percentage off. Most certainly go to the link in the description down below. If you guys need any if you have any radiator needs, man, they have a very wide variety for many different vehicles, Hondas, domestic imports, whatever. It doesn't matter what it is you've got. I guarantee you they have something for you. And they have a lot more than just radiators, man. Go check out their website. Help support the companies that help support what it is that we are doing here. You know what I'm saying? But yeah, like I said, I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope this was a longer one. I feel like I've been working on this forever. Peace, and I'll see you guys tomorrow.
Tell him goodnight, Toby. Tell him goodnight, Toby. Are you gonna tell him goodnight, puppers? Yeah, do your donuts, man. Do your donuts. Puppers, do your donuts. Oh, papa. Oh, the papa. Oh, the papa. Oh, the papa. Papa, 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 poo. Toby. Toby. You see, I give one of them love and he gets jealous. And then they start fighting. Oh, Jesus, man. You gonna let him do you like that, puppers? He's got that dad strength, huh? He's got that dad strength, don't he? Braven knows all about that. Later, guys.